الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد. My elders, my brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Since I'm continuing the series of the 12th holy Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, on Tuesday evenings now, before Salatul Maghribain in the Imam Barga, it's every Tuesday evening in the adult Islamic education course series. Mullah Qasim requested me to present another topic during the Fajr Salah. And I thought that we can start a brief discussion on the biographies of our ulama, because it's very important for us to learn from their lives and to derive lessons from them and to know about the sacrifices that our ulama underwent for us to be able to practice Islam in today's day and age. If you analyze the history of these ulama, it's just amazing. If you look at the amount of work that they have done. And many of these prominent ulama, many of these prominent maraja, if you look at where they are buried in the vicinity of the imams of the Ahlul Bayt. Last year I was listening to a good majlis recited by Maulana Abid Bilgirami, and he says a very beautiful thing. He says, if you analyze the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Amirul Mu'mineen, you will realize that he had many close companions. People like Ammar, people like Salman. These were close companions of not only the Holy Prophet of Islam, but even Imam Ali alayhi salam. And despite being so close, none of them are buried in the vicinity of Imam Ali alayhi salam. The place that is surrounding the grave of Imam Ali alayhi salam, that is surrounding the grave of Imam Ali alayhi salam, was reserved for some very special people. Look at the status of these people. Although Imam Ali alayhi salam had companions in his lifetime, they did not get the darja, the level, to be buried near the vicinity of the grave of Imam Ali alayhi salam. But there are certain people who've done work in their lives that they reach such a status that Imam gives them place as their final resting place, being near the grave of Imam. So one such scholar that we will discuss today is a scholar that has had an immense impact on fiqh, jurisprudence, on ethics, on the science of Islamic history in Shia Islam. And this is none other than the famous scholar by the title of Sheikh al-Mufeed. To briefly introduce him, his actual name was Muhammad bin Nu'man al-Harithi al-Baghdadi al-Ukbari. This is a long name. Muhammad bin Nu'man. His kunya is Abu Abdullah. That was his kunya. However, in his chronology, Ibn Kathir Shami writes that this personality was very famously known by both Shia and Sunni scholars of his time. He was known by the name of Ibn Muallim or Ibn al-Muallim, because his father was a teacher, and a very famous teacher in his village. Sheikh al-Mufeed or Abu Abdullah, we will call him Abu Abdullah for now. So Abu Abdullah was born in the year 336 AH, according to some other books 338 AH, which corresponds to the Ummah. That is very important for us to note. This was the time where the Abbasid Caliphate was coming towards the end, and the Buyid dynasty was coming in as the rulers of Iran. Then Abu Abdullah replies or asks him another question. He says, what do you say about the commander of the faithful Ali ibn Abi Talib? Ali bin Isa immediately replies, without doubt, he was an imam. You see, the brothers, the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah, up until the recent past, they used to, whenever they used to mention the name of the first three khulafa, what would they say after the name? Radiyallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with them. But when they mentioned the name of Amirul Mu'mineen, what would they say? Sarramallahu wajhu, may Allah bless his face. Separate, totally separate. They knew that Allah is happy with Ali ibn Abi Talib. That was a known fact. But his status was such that Rasulullah used to keep looking at the face of Ali. So they used to say, Karramallahu wajhu. So at that time, instinctively, Ali bin Isa replied he was an imam. Now he's actually winding himself in his own web. Abu Abdullah says, next asks another question. He says, "Oh Sheikh, what would you say about the battle of Jamal, the battle of the camel, and some of the companions who fought against Amirul Mu'mineen? Therefore, according to the argument that you have put forward, they should be described as fasiq, and that is the grave sinners that would immediately go to Jahannam." There is a tradition in the books of the Ahlul Sunnah that says that there are 10 companions whom the Prophet said would go to heaven. And the name of, and those Talha and Zubair and etc. has been mentioned in that list. Now this is a direct contradiction. Ali bin Isa has to explain how could a fasiq go to heaven. So Ali bin Isa now replies, he says, they repented. They did tawbah. Abu Abdullah smiles. He says, the tradition of the battle of Jamal is definite knowledge. It is diraya, it happened. Whereas the tradition of repentance is just a narration. It is a riwayah. And according to what you said, diraya is superior to riwayah. Pin drop silence. Abu Abdullah was so impressed with this young man's reasoning, he asked him, "Who is your teacher?" And Abu Abdullah gives him the name of the teacher. He says, "Come here."
You mean Ali bin Isa was impressed with it?
Ali bin Isa, yes. He says, "Come here." He writes him a letter and gives the letter to Abu Abdullah. He says, "Give this letter to your teacher." So Abu Abdullah takes the letter and carries it to his teacher, hands it over to his teacher. His teacher opens the letter and starts laughing. He says, "What happened? Tell me." So Abu Abdullah narrates the whole incident. His teacher tells him that Ali bin Isa has written a letter to me and conferred on you the title of Al-Mufeed, which means the one who gives benefit. And therefore, henceforth, Abu Abdullah was called as Sheikh Al-Mufeed. And as a scholar, if you analyze his life as a scholar, he became one of the foremost scholars in history of Islam. He was an outstanding theologian and a jurist and a brilliant writer on behalf of the Shiites. And he actually rose to become the head of the Shi'i scholars in Baghdad, and he took active part in many debates and discussions on behalf of the Shia. Nobody could win him in debates because he was very well read and he presented his points in such a way that would captivate even those that opposed him. This created a lot of hatred in the opponents of Shias. A lot of hatred, and you will see what that hatred translated into during the death of Sheikh Al-Mufeed. The rivalry between the Shia and the opponents of the Shia continued to increase. Let's recite a brief salawat. This rivalry became more tense during the 4 holidays. And we all know that the 4 holidays were within a few weeks of each other. Ghadir event of Cave, Ashura, defeat of Al-Mukhtar. They were within 3 to 4 weeks of each other. During that time, there would be riots in Baghdad and Basra. In the year 398 Hijr, the Khalifa or the government of Baghdad had almost exiled Sheikh al-Mufeed from Baghdad. Because whenever a riot happens, the easy target is the Shia. Wherever. From the whole world, the easy targets are the Muslims. Within the Muslims, the easy targets are the Shias. We are hit from all sides. So in 398 Hijr, he was about to be exiled. 12 years later, in the year 410 Hijr, he actually is exiled. He is banished from Baghdad for a short period of time. But because of his level, he is reinvited to come back into the city. Sheikh al-Mufeed. His status can only be understood by looking at his students. He was not only a brilliant debater and a disputer, but he was a very fine teacher and an outstanding and prolific writer. As a teacher, he is remembered of his greatness, for his greatness by 3 most outstanding pupils. Al-Sharif al-Radi, Al-Sharif al-Murtaza, who is also known as Alam al-Huda, and Muhammad bin al-Hassan, who is also called Sheikh al-Tusi. And this biography is actually written by Sheikh al-Tusi. Who is Al-Sharif al-Radi? Al-Sharif al-Radi is the author of Nahjul Balagha, which is a collection of the letters and sermons and sayings of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Al-Sharif al-Murtaza or Alam al-Huda was one of the famous jurists of his time, famous thinkers and philosophers of his time. Sheikh, and I would just very briefly narrate a small anecdote. Once Sheikh al-Mufeed was sleeping. In his dream, he sees Lady Fatima salamullahi alayha at his doorstep. He hears a knock on his door. He opens the door and he sees Lady Fatima standing there with 2 children, Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And she's telling, "Oh Sheikh, I want you to teach my 2 children." Sheikh was so astonished that he woke up from sleep. Imagine Lady Fatima bringing 2 holy imams of the Ahlul Bayt at his doorstep and asking him to teach them fiqh. Please teach fiqh to my 2 children. So he got up shocked and he couldn't sleep. And the next day, a similar scenario happened. There was a knock on his door. He opened the door. A lady is standing there holding the hands of 2 children. That was Sharif al-Radi and Sharif al-Murtaza. And she said, "Oh Sheikh, I want you to teach my 2 children fiqh." And Sheikh immediately understood that was an instruction, a command from the lady, from Sayyidatul Nisa al-Alameen, that teach these children. And he immediately accepts these 2 children as his students, and he mentors them and teaches them fiqh. And this is where these 2 students reached. The 3rd student, Sheikh al-Tusi, became one of the greatest jurists of his time as well, and he is actually later known as Sheikh al-Ta'ifa. If you look at his books, Sheikh al-Mufeed has numerous writings, numerous works on the topics, on the subjects of ethics, history, literature, and fiqh. And Sheikh al-Tusi, in his book Al-Fihrist, says that the number of books authored by Sheikh al-Mufeed is almost 200. 200 books. This is before there were typewriters and computers, brothers. This is before there was a ballpoint pen, which you start writing and you can continue writing. This was at the time where you have to dip the pen in ink, write. Dip it in ink, 200 books. This is the work these people did. The sacrifice these people gave. In theology, we have a very famous treatise known as Awail al-Maqalat, in which Sheikh Mufeed discusses Shi'i theology in relation to the theology of other schools of thought. On jurisprudence, on fiqh, his famous work is Al-Muqniya. And then he has analyzed in depth the battle of Jamal in his book called Kitab al-Jamal. And his very famous book is Kitab al-Irshad. This book needs no introduction. I wanted to discuss about Kitab al-Irshad, but because of time I will just move forward. So after the occultation of the 12th Holy Imam, Imam al-Mahdi, for about 1 or 2 centuries, as we had discussed, Shi'i jurists solved their issues only by referring to the text of the Hadith and the Quran. They were the traditionalists, like Sheikh al-Saduq. As the time passed, if you recall my lectures on Marja'iyah, I had mentioned during the history of Marja'iyah that as time passed, new issues came into existence. Science advanced, politics advanced, the life of people changed, so there were new problems creeping in. And these issues motivated the jurists of that time to use the principles of jurisprudence to analyze the ahadith in the light of the Holy Quran and to come up with a fatwa to solve their issues. Ibn Abi Aqil and Muhammad ibn Junayd Iskafi were among the pioneers of the science of ijtihad, which is the principles of jurisprudence. Ibn Ali Aqil taught Sheikh Mufeed's teacher, Abu al-Qasim Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Quluway Qummi, the science of ijtihad. And Ibn Junayd Iskafi, who was one of the other pioneer of the science of ijtihad, taught ijtihad directly to Sheikh Mufeed. So he actually wrote a book called Al-Muqniya on the principles of jurisprudence, which our present marjas use during their studies in ijtihad. The relationship, it is very important to analyze the relationship between Sheikh al-Mufeed and Imam al-Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, as there was a very special relationship. There existed a very special relationship between the Imam and Sheikh Mufeed. If you analyze the life of Sheikh Mufeed, Imam al-Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajahu supported Sheikh Mufeed on numerous times. He was the very few people who actually received letters from Imam called Tawqi. And historians give evidence that Sheikh Mufeed during his lifetime has received at least 30 Tawqi'at from the 12th Holy Imam. 30 letters. Imam shows his love and his respect for Sheikh Mufeed by the way he addresses him in the letters. In one of the letters, Imam calls Sheikh Mufeed, he addresses him like this. Amma ba'd, Assalamu alayka ayyuhal waliyul mukhlis fid din. Peace be with you, O my friend, the pure in his faith. 2 things. Imam is calling Sheikh Mufeed his friend. Number 2, Imam is a part of Ahlul Bayt who Allah has purified with a thorough purification. If the thoroughly purified Imam is calling Sheikh Mufeed, oh pure, how pure will be Sheikh Mufeed? This is how much Imam respected Sheikh Mufeed. In another letter, Imam says, peace be with you, O supporter of the truth, the one inviter to him through true speech. And the highest position that Imam gave him is when he addressed Sheikh Mufeed as dear committed brother Sheikh Mufeed. Imam calls him brother, my brother. Imagine 12th Imam calling you my brother. And secondly, Imam is calling Al-Mufeed Sheikh. This is the straw, this is the last straw on the respect of Sheikh Mufeed. How much Sheikh Mufeed was respected. Once a person from a village in the neighborhood of Baghdad approached Sheikh and asked Sheikh Mufeed that a lady had died, and this lady, when she died, she was pregnant. What should they do? Should they cut open the stomach, deliver the baby, and then bury the lady, or should they bury the lady with the baby? And Sheikh Mufeed, according to his ijtihad, gave a fatwa. He said, bury the lady as she is, with the baby within her. The man said thank you and left. As the man was leaving and walking away, he heard a horse coming from behind. He turned around and he saw a rider. The rider came to this man and said, I have been sent to you by Sheikh. There is a change in his ruling. He says, please take the baby out from the mother's womb as the baby is still alive, and then bury the mother. The man said, thank you very much, and goes and executes the command of Sheikh. Many years later, this man and the child returned back to Sheikh. And this man introduces that child. Says, Sheikh, remember that lady I told you about? And then you told me that bury this lady. And then you sent somebody to correct your fatwa. This is the child. He is now grown up into a young man. Sheikh was so astonished and so sad that he understood his mistake. He immediately went into his house, closed his door, and decided not to issue any more fatwas. He says, I made such a big mistake. I will stop issuing fatwas henceforth. Imam writes a letter to Sheikh, and in the letter Imam commands him, you will continue issuing fatwas. We are there to support you. You do your job. This is a lesson for us. We have a lot of difficult situations. We should do our duty. The rest, leave it on Imam. Imam is alive. He is there. He is seeing us. He will support us. Have that yaqeen. Al-Sheikh al-Mufeed passes away in the month of Ramadan in the year 413 AH, 1022 AD. The hatred that the opponents had with him is now manifested. Some of the scholars in the opposing groups were so glad that he died that one of the scholars actually decorated his house. And he calls all his followers and congratulates him on the death of Al-Mufeed. The scholar actually tells his followers that I don't care about my death anymore. I'm very relieved that Al-Mufeed has died. He was a threat to the opposition. That was the level of this man. According to Al-Tusi, 80,000 people attended the funeral of Sheikh Al-Mufeed. Both the Shia and brothers from the other faiths. Al-Sharif Al-Murtada Alam Al-Qudah led the Salatul Mayyit and recited a speech after the Salah. Initially, Sheikh Al-Mufeed's body was buried in his own house. A few years later, his body was moved to the shrine of the two holy Imams in the city of Baghdad in Al-Qadmain. And he is buried he is facing the feet of the ninth holy Imam, Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam. I will finish today's talk by narrating to you the writing of Imam Al-Mahdi. When Sheikh Al-Mufeed died, Imam Al-Mahdi wrote a poem. And the words of this poem are engraved on the stone of the grave of Sheikh Al-Mufeed. Imam says, for the day of your death is overwhelming for the household. The household means Ahlul Bayt. This is the level. Imam says, the day of your death is overwhelming for the household. Though you are covered underneath the soil, the knowledge and godliness continues to reside within you. The uprising Mahdi is pleased ever since you began teaching your lessons. This is the poem that Imam Al-Mahdi wrote for Sheikh Al-Mufeed. Let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to learn from the life of Sheikh Al-Mufeed and to do the work for our holy Imam so that our Imam is also proud of us. And let us pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the soul of Sheikh Al-Mufeed and to elevate his status in the Akhirah. Let's all recite the Surah Fatiha for this holy Sheikh. Al-Fatiha.